networks, can you retrieve a laptop if it is lost? So imagine that we were unable to stop the prevention of a certain type of data loss. We did record it. We know which asset it came from. We were able to delete it, but there's still another asset sitting out there, which is our laptop. So maybe we decided not to delete it. Maybe we wanted to make sure we got that laptop back. Can you locate and then further disable that solution? So on the broad terms, and I'll take you through more of the details in a moment, if I was to look at a checklist, it would really include these 5 critical items. Obviously the first, is it a prevention solution? That box should be checked by any and every solution you basically go through. The next one is, does it record and evaluate? And that's a critical element, because I guarantee you, as much as all of you are extremely intelligent people, that you don't have a perfect DLP solution, or it's not perfectly implemented to define all the elements and ways that data can leak from your organization. So recording and evaluate so that you can do a forensics on it and then make sure you broader define your prevention solution is critical. Can you discover where all the data sits on your employee computers? A critical element so that you make sure you have a good snapshot of where information lies, and just as importantly, if something goes wrong, you can make sure you understand what was on it. Can you delete it remotely? And then lastly, can you locate and disable remote solutions? These laptops are really the standard operating equipment now in office environments. So you have to have a laptop solution in your DLP toolkit. And if you don't, you've got a big, big problem. So all of that, I think it's very, very important for all of you to evaluate your own platforms internally. And what I'd like to do is just take you through some examples of what I think is a positive solution, because I think it matches up with a lot of those criteria, and it creates some unique opportunities for even further extensions in terms of the need for employee monitoring and other solutions. The InterGuard solution has a suite of 4 critical components, which the first of which is not listed necessarily as an attribute of a strong DLP solution, but at the end of the day, we all have to live with the implementation side of this and the management side of this. And so the InterGuard solution, which we've taken a look at, is it's a cloud-based solution. It requires no hardware. So what you've got out of the gate is a software platform that essentially updates itself, doesn't really need any maintenance, doesn't require additional equipment, and doesn't require installation. So that means you can get something implemented quickly, and you can manage it without having the headache of the additional costs to your IT staff of trying to make sure that the solution is up and running with the latest code and patches that need to be there. So, as I said, it eliminates the maintenance and upgrade headaches. It's very simple to add and delete new users. You don't have to worry about too many securing new licenses via email and wait until that user has it's very simple to add new users, block sites, do anything you want. Also, the solution does a very strong job of screening all email, work and personal, and attachments for sensitive data and block if desired. So setting up a profile for certain types of files, making sure that that doesn't come out of your network, whether it happens to be your own email client, and making sure that it's locked down by that profile. You can also set it so that it actually notifies. You can have it set in a couple different ways, but one of which basically informs the employee that they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing, which is really important. Keep in mind, as I went through that list about the 3 primary reasons for data leakage, or at least the reasons people implement it, what I labeled as the third, but which I think is the most important, is accidental release of information. So if an employee is to attach the wrong file type to be sent out, and you say you can't send out Excel files without administrator approval, and they get that message on the screen, they're being educated at the same time that you're protecting your network and you have a DLP solution that's working proactively for you. Also, it protects from misuse or misappropriation of trade secrets, non-public personal information, control or stop of removable media. So another piece of this is not only the sending of information and file types, whether it happens to be on an email client on the desktop / your network, and or a web-based webmail application, which it can do as well, or even block access to. It's also closing down ports, such as a USB thumb drive, and knowing that you don't want that laptop to be able to provide access to any USB thumb drives. Or maybe it says that you can't burn CD-ROMs off of that laptop. These are critical elements that make sure that not only can you not send the file out, you cannot put it on portable media. By having the settings available in the InterGuard solution, That is what makes it also another lockdown environment, which is critical for the core prevention solution. And then, as I mentioned earlier, block files based on their content from being copied to removable media. So that at its core, it does that extremely well. Also, it protects and enforces policies governing each employee's computer use. So you can set it by the individual, you can set it by group type, you can even just set it as one universal. The point is, it's that variable that you can set it to different levels of groupings or individuals, so that employee computer's use is monitored and profiled. And most importantly here, because it is a cloud-based solution, it includes those that never even connect to the network. Once this software is installed, even on laptops, that policy is enacted, and it knows it's enacted. It records it, and it can continue to block and make sure that information isn't leaking out, whether it's through web-based applications, your own email client, or any of the portable media we referenced earlier. It's very easy and intuitive for policy creation, which is another one of those maintenance headache type issues. But at the end of the day, if you have a simple to use interface that allows people to set things up very easily, that's going to make it easier for you to implement your policies. Anything that makes it harder for you to implement a new customer, a new policy creation, a new profile, is one more problem that is more likely to help facilitate data loss or data leakage in your organization. Every time you're able to make it easier and make it so that you don't have to relearn the platform again or the software idea again before you enter the new policy, makes it that much easier for you to do it quickly. And as I said earlier, this software platform, this solution basically coaches and educates employees to making sure they're using the best practices when they're protecting company data and the process in which they go about it. So if you think about what I mentioned earlier, if you're able to pop a warning message on screen for an attached file or even block websites and tell them why, you're educating your employees to what's going on. Instead of it being a black hole of, you shall not pass here and you have no idea why. This is what allows your employees to be more informed about what's going on in the network. Hopefully they'll either ask a question or at least remember that next time I should not attach that kind of a file to or have a 7-digit number in my email content, as it might be a critical piece of data information that you regard as profiled data. As I mentioned, remote users. This is really, to me, is one of the biggest solutions that I think the InterGuard integrated solution provides from a DLP perspective. It treats remote and on-network users exactly the same. Your policies are set the same. You affect them the same because you update it on a web-based interface. You can remotely retrieve important files invisibly using any internet connection. You can remotely delete files or an entire hard drive. You can secure and confirm deletion to the highest Pentagon standard of unrecoverability. So this laptop is now not so much as a liability on your network. It has the exact same profile as a desktop would. And if anything, it actually has almost a higher profile and accessibility, because most often anybody who were to steal or try to utilize it for or misappropriate a laptop, you can decide you can delete the files, or you can actually just observe the user if you wished and understand what they're doing on the network. Capture that information and potentially use it in legal purposes, or at least just track the location of the laptop at any one time if you wanted to leave it open. You could also do that while also deleting the file, so the computer was essentially empty of any critical business information, but at the same time you were able to track it and track down who had access or where that laptop was. There's enough laptops that even disappear because employees think that if I tell my boss it was stolen, I can walk away with a free laptop. Well, imagine the fact that if you were able to locate it, you could easily find out the fact that it was sitting in their house. So not that all things that employees do are accidental, but at least you have all your bases covered in any situation. As I said, you can geolocate a stolen laptop in real time over any internet connection, often with greater accuracy than any GPS solution, and it doesn't require additional hardware for the laptop. Basically, if that laptop accesses the internet connection, it is going to be able. You can find it. You can monitor and control everything a thief does, every keystroke they type, file they access, everything they do. You will be able to record and or block or just brick the laptop. So you have a lot of options on that front. and you can lock it down after disappearance so files can't be accessed. And it's something I touched on earlier. The solution or the definition of mobility is not just limited to laptops. One of the additional reasons that I think the InterGuard solution fits those 5 critical PI elements that I discussed earlier and from a criteria perspective is the fact that the mobile phone solutions they have are integrated into the exact same portal and platform and interface that everything I just mentioned was. So BlackBerries and Android devices are monitored as well, and you can set profiles for those devices. And as I said, most critically, it's managed by the same interface. So you don't have to go to multiple solutions to manage your DLP solution on your network and off your network for that matter. You manage, as you can see on the next page here, you can look at computers by emails, you can look at their chats, you can look at their keystrokes, you can look at the programs that are on there. You can set alert words so you can be notified to SMS when certain words are being used. You can capture screenshots so you can actually see the actions. You can monitor their web activity, social networking. As you run down the list, you can see laptop cop, data lock. All of these elements are managed through one portal and one interface. I can look at it by employee. I can look at it broadly by various categories. I can print this out. There's easily configurable reports. Here in this instance, we're looking at website activity. You can take a look at what John, in this case, was doing. He was on etrade.com. You can see all the sites that he's been to. You can see it by date and frequency of visits. But then more importantly, I can go down to laptop cop. I can track the laptop. I can do the same thing with phone. The dashboard provides me a very strong overview of everything that's going on with the assets in my organization as it relates to DLP and laptop tracking, all through one interface. And I can't, besides the fact that this is a solution that is cloud-based, so you avoid all the headaches of licensing issues, maintenance upgrades, hardware, power issues, any of those are eliminated, number one. Number two, the fact that you have remote users acting the same as on and off network, that's a huge solution, so you don't have to create multiple solutions. And the fact that you have one interface to deal with it all, one of the most overlooked things when evaluating any of these types of solutions is the ease of use. And all of these elements end up making a huge difference in your day in terms of what you're able to do because, one, the interface is easy. Two, you don't have to worry about the additional cost of the organization because there are none because of the cloud-based solution. And three, you don't have to worry about multiple solutions to manage these things, which is usually and typically the bigger headache. Some things don't interact well together. This platform, I have to go to this portal, and it doesn't act the same way as the other solution that we have. So one setting, one location makes a big difference in terms of ease of use. So the one thing I would say is kind of a catch-all for the InterGuard solution is that it identifies, tracks, and controls who accesses your data, what data they access, and what they can and cannot do with that data. And just as importantly, I could add on or off network in a cloud-based format that has no additional cost to your organization. So if I were to really pick one solution from a DLP perspective, outside of what you might do from a pure encryption perspective, I think the InterGuard solution is the one that you should implement in your organization today, and that goes for organizations of any size. If you think about it, smaller organizations are challenged by having expertise in-house. You no longer need to install equipment. You no longer need to manage licenses. You no longer need to really have expertise in the category. You can manage it just through the interface. Frequently, small business owners actually use this solution themselves and manage it themselves because they want that access to that information. On a large solution perspective, this information is incredibly well organized so that you can get at it and print out reports when necessary. But just as importantly, it is easy to use. So if you have a transient work staff, you might have to switch people's priorities. Putting somebody new on this doesn't mean that they have a huge learning curve. They actually have a very short learning curve because the access and the interface makes it very, very easy for them to get up to speed almost immediately.